In this guide, we'll be going over all of the basics of the island sanctuary, including how the mechanics work, as well as taking note of anything you should keep in mind as you progress on your way to rank 10. This guide will not seek to perfectly optimize your island. Now, to start, when you first land on the island, very early on you will be handed some so-called Seafarer's Cowries. Now, you may also relatively quickly notice that there is a vendor that you can spend this currency at to buy glamour items, mounts and all sorts of things. Do not spend your Seafarer's Cowries on any of these things for now. Save all of your curries to expand and build on your island until you have built everything, otherwise this will become a major hindrance for your progress later on, which ultimately will lead you to miss out on tons of Seafarer's curries. You will need curries to build building plots on your island, as well as upgrading your pasture and croplands, essentially to pay your workers for services in general. A mammoth will outright hand you 5,000 curries when you have built everything, so that will be a sign that you should be good to spend them on fun things. Now with that out of the way, let's move on to how the island actually functions. While on the island, you have a menu stuck on your UI that allows you to access all the features of the island. To interact with most things, in the top left of it, you can choose which action mode you wish to use. Switching to the Gather option allows you to pick up items around the island. Every gathering spot on the island has the capability to yield one each of 2 different items and will always do so, provided that you have the correct tool to pick up the item. One of the items will be considered a common drop and appears regardless of your tools, while the other only appears when you have crafted the appropriate tool. For example, while you can attempt to gather quartz at the very start, you need the tool crafted at rank 8 to obtain quartz from the gathering spot. Next, just below the mode choice, you will find the Isleventory, where all the items related to the island sanctuary are stored. These are sorted in materials, things you collect yourself, as well as some specific things only found with the Granary. Produce, combining both seeds and produce in one screen. Stock stores, which contains everything related to the pasture, meaning the items obtained from animals, as well as feed and items necessary to capture. And finally, the tools menu, which simply lists which tools you have crafted. Take note that all items in the Isleventory have a hard cap of 999, and trying to pick up anything beyond that will fizzle the drop. To the right of the Isleventory is the crafting log. This log will be extended with new items as you rank up, and I would highly advise you to go out of your way to craft every tool offered as quickly as you can. The feed menu offers the easy to mass produce sweet feed made with apples you can gather, as well as both green feed and premium green feed, which are both made from produce. Take note that the premium green feed requires you to use 2 different kinds of produce. Additionally, the easily mass-produced sweet feed can only bring your animals up to stage 3 happiness out of 5, whereas both of the produce-based feeds level up the happiness by 2 each time you use them. You will however require the premium feed to reach happiness level 5. Finally, the restraints menu allows you to craft capturing tools, with makeshift net being for small animals, restraint for medium animals and soporific for the large animals. You spend 1 item every capture attempt, and you cannot accidentally use the wrong sort of restraint, as the game will simply tell you that you are using the wrong item. Simply put, make sure to produce a bunch of the restraint you need to capture the animal you want. To the right of the crafting log, you will find the gathering log, which, for every item you have gathered at some point, will show you at least 1 place where the item can be found. This is not always the most efficient place to find the item, but it is definitely a place to find it. Now, let's talk about buildings. When you initially arrive on the island, you only have your cozy cabin, level 1. But not only can this building be upgraded itself, you can also construct other buildings. On screen, you should be able to see a list of what you unlock when. The important part is that you will need a grand total of 6,000 curries to unlock all the building plots, as well as 2,500 curries to fully upgrade your croplands and pastures. 2,500 each. All these expenses are of course spread across the ranks, with the bigger costs placed at the highest ranks. Your croplands and pasture each have their own dedicated plots, but besides this, you will unlock 5 facility slots and 4 landmark slots. Facility slots can hold workshops and granaries. As you can have at max 3 workshops and 2 granaries, you only have the choice in which order they are built. And of course where they are built. Landmarks specifically affect the groove limit of your workshop. I will get back to this a bit later. Now, why would you want to upgrade your buildings? Upgrading your cozy cabin is what directly unlocks your ability to upgrade your cropland and pasture, and each level up of these plots will double their capacity. First 5, then 10, then 20. 20 animals and crops. Meanwhile, upgrading the workshop increases the amount of curries it produces by 10% and 20%. Finally, the granary will produce 1 extra of the rare material for each level beyond the first. Take note that to build everything and completely upgrade everything, you will need 3 silver ores for a specific landmark, 6 spruce logs for upgrading the granaries, and 9 raw island garnets to upgrade the workshops. All these items are obtained through the granaries, so once unlocked, you should prioritize getting these materials and saving them for this express purpose. You access the granaries through the Excitable Explorer, and yes, it does cost 50 curries per day per granary, but it is well worth it. After all, as mentioned previously, when every building plot is fully utilized on your island, one of the mammoths will even give you back 5,000 curries to celebrate. Now, the most complex building on the island is the workshop. I will not go into detail on how to optimize this building, but let's talk about how it works. Talk with the tactful taskmaster to access it and choose Review the Workshop's agenda. This opens a schedule. A cycle is a single day and a season is a week. Your mammoths do have a union right to 2 days off each week, and your only choice in this matter is which days those are. If you wish to maximize the value of the crafts made by the workshop, view the supply and demand in the top right. Items in higher demand get a multiplier on the base curry value described in the crafting interface, meaning that optimizing this can be extremely lucrative. To queue an item to be built, click a plus in the schedule to open the crafting interface. You can choose to sort based on crafting time or category. Each item has 1 or 2 categories and take either 4, 6 or 8 hours to make. Items made of more rare materials have a higher base value. The category is important because if you craft 2 items that share a category in succession, then your mammoths will get more motivated, which doubles the amount of items they make, which in turn doubles your profits. It also makes them get in the groove, which is an additional value multiplier. Each cycle will of course reset this chain bonus, but the groove is kept for the season. As such, 4-hour crafts are excellent at the start of a season to get your groove up and running, but also to start every cycle with a short and cheap craft such that the rest of the day can be spent doubling your crafts. Take note that crafting the exact same item twice in a row does not activate the chain or get your mammoths in the groove, as this will bore them. A neat trick is that you could, for example, craft a potion, a concoction, followed by fire sand, which is both a concoction and an unburied treasure, and then build a brick counter, which happens to also be an unburied treasure. This way, you can make many different items in a day without losing your chain. Take note that each workshop has its own chain, but they all share the groove. To round off on this workshop talk, I should say that while the granary is important for finishing your island, as you need specific materials for the final levels of both granaries and workshops, not to mention the final landmark, you do need as many curries as you can get, so prioritizing workshops is not a bad idea. Also, you can quickly access all of your buildings from the menu to the right of the gathering log, Manage Hideaway, and you can review how many materials your workshop requires for the work orders you have put in at any time with the Material Allocation menu, which can be helpful since you can plan 2 whole weeks in advance if you want to. Now, that was probably the most difficult part of the island. Let's next talk about the Croplands. Using the action menu, you can use water and sow to water your plots and sow seeds in them respectively. Aside from certain produce being usable for some workshop crafts, all of the produce are equal. Simply choose a seed and plant it. You need to water the crops just about daily, although if you visit your island while it is already raining, they will automatically be watered. It takes 3 days for your crops to grow, after which you have to gather them. Each yields 5 produce. My advice would be to grow at least 2 different produce at any time to make sure you can craft premium feed. When your croplands reach their 3rd and final rank, the produce mammoth will sell 6 extra seed types, although these aren't anything special compared to the others, aside from being even easier to acquire as they're sold right there. With the croplands fully upgraded, you can also use mammoths to tend your crops for a cost of cowries daily, which can be recommended once you have maxed out your island. To do this, talk with the mammoth and in the review menu, right-click any crop and set the mammoth to tend it. From then on, you can also use this menu to obtain the produce that you get. The pasture gives you the ability to keep animals. Every day, each animal in your pasture will produce a primary material with a chance to additionally produce a secondary material, which is always different from the primary. The higher the happiness of your animals, the higher the chance for the secondary material. You need to feed your animals daily to keep their happiness up, which is done with the feeding action mode, and if their hunger drops to the bottom, their happiness immediately completely depletes too. When your pasture is maxed out, you can also, for a small daily curry fee, have mammoths tend your animals. From the same review menu, you can also name your animals, and while you can pet and beckon your animals, this only affects your own personal real-life happiness, not theirs. Every animal has their own primary and secondary drop, and each animal has a rare variant which tends to flip these two. For instance, lambs drop fleece as their primary, with milk being their secondary, while the ornery caracal, the black sheep, drops milk as its primary, with fleece being the secondary. There are also a handful of animals that are rare, but not a rare variant of a common animal, and these tend to have rather unique combinations, like the rare twinkle fleece, which is the only animal that combines fleece and fur. The rare animals have different special spawning criteria, some being time-based, others being weather-based, and a few, like Twinklefleece, have both. These special animals also only spawn once per time the criteria are fulfilled, so if the animal gets away, you will need to wait for the next opportunity. To capture an animal, simply switch to the capture action mode and equip the appropriate restraining tool, and then walk up to and right-click the animal. You will make an attempt and randomly you may capture, miss or scare away the animal. Regardless, your tool is spent. Take note that if you reach the limit of your pasture, you will immediately have to choose to either let the animal you just captured go or drop one you already have. If a mammoth is tending an animal on your pasture, you cannot let that one go. Now finally, take note that most things you can do on the island gives experience. Finishing workshop crafts, picking up granary loot, finishing buildings, and so on. If you wish to power level, there are a few ways people found. The main one is to find a place with 11 relatively closely packed gathering locations, as when you pick up the 11th gathering node, the first one respawns, allowing you to run in a circle. Here, I'm showcasing one that I like to use. The alternative is to also do this, but specifically with items you can use to mass craft something, like restraints, as crafting items also grant experience, of course. And in case you cap out on a specific material, the exports mammoth will gladly take them off your hands for the much less valuable Islanders curries. You can at least buy glamour prisms with them, meaning that one Islanders curry is worth at least around 1.33 gil. That is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you found it helpful or interesting, please consider leaving a like. You can also subscribe and tend the bell to get notified when next I post a video. And if you have any questions, anything to add, or something you would like to tell me, please leave a comment. Fun fact, there is a 5th landmark you can choose to make instead of the base 4. This one, however, both requires rare gathering materials not on the Island Sanctuary, which are used for expert crafts, again, not on the Island Sanctuary. This makes it a lucrative option for talented gatherers and crafters to aim for, even if it is just cosmetically different.